Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement plan. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement, your live and local St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Erin Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services, financial planner and wealth manager, and I'm joined this week and every single week by my father, Jeff Lapidus, wealth manager and retirement coach, and my husband, Robert Markham, our life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
Good morning.
Good morning, babe.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan with several goals in mind.
First is to reserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate.
Second is to provide an income stream they can rely on so they can do all the things they want in retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, without Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Erin, Rob, and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Gang, good morning.
Good morning.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. President made a big announcement this morning.
What do you say?
That they're opening up fast-tracking some drugs through the FDA, which is cool. The other thing is we know that the Iran war is starting to move in the right direction, so we love that. And we also love the fact that the financial markets,
they are also moving in a very positive direction.
They certainly are recovering. We're pretty close to levels that we were prior to the current Mideast conflict.
Yeah, we're at all-time highs now.
Which is great.
But I thought the really interesting thing was being at all-time highs, we still saw a pretty significant rotation out of a lot of tech into other parts of the market. So I've heard some arguments that although we're at all-time highs, things are looking even stronger than they were before when we were at our last all-time highs, before we saw our correction.
It's been a multitude of events of volatility over the last 4 years, and this is just another one that really proves the point that you want to stay invested over long periods of time. You don't want to make wholesale changes to your portfolio according to the news cycle because, as we know, these things can change on a dime and often do.
And it's the weekend.
Right, and it's the first Saturday after tax day.
Woo-hoo.
So it's like a celebration all around.
And we do remind everybody that there are lots of ways that you can keep in touch with us during the week.
That's right. Log onto our website, jblfinancial.com. You can click on the Contact Us button and request a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. Or you can send us a question if you happen to have one and you would prefer to email it versus send it in on the text line, or if it happens to be when the show's not on. You have a question. We'll try to get back to you as quickly as we can.
Which is great, and I know I'm busy this weekend, too.
That's right.
We're seeing folks during the Christmas week and also right after the show, which is kind of fun.
Yes, we are available for appointments after the show on Saturdays. We realize that as we work with people that are getting ready to retire, not necessarily already retired, they might not have time during the week to see us.
They can't be flexible. Luckily, we can.
That's right.
What could be more fun than visiting with us after we've done the show?
Right.
We're alive. We're awake. We got all of our energy flowing. Life is very good. And just as a reminder, all of our clients are folks like you. They're our listeners. They're 55 and older. They would like to retire or they're already retired. And I've gotten this, Missouri, this retired.
Retired.
Right.
I like it.
Retired, right. And as Erin mentioned, our goal is to create a game plan for them so they can have a fun and financially successful retirement. And we do also offer
a monthly newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner, and Rob keeps it up to date for us not only by archiving past issues, but ensuring that future ones go out on a monthly basis to your email. So if you would like to sign up, you can click on the sign up button on many pages of the website for the newsletter. Rob will make sure you get it. But why don't you tell us a little bit about what's in our April 2026 newsletter?
Got some great articles in the April 2026 newsletter you're sure to enjoy. The first one being, what do Americans do with their tax returns? 100 million taxpayers will receive their refunds. The average refund is a little over $3,000. So where are they going to spend all that money? Got a great little infographic below the main article, and it basically shows you exactly how they're going to spend that money. And I would just note that 31% are going to save their tax refund versus 9% that are going to splurge. So it's almost a 3-to-1 ratio for splurge to save, which is interesting. Our next article, how to prepare for extreme weather. Almost one-third of U.S. households are expected to be at least in one type of extreme weather risk. Extreme weather can strike unexpectedly. We can't control the forecast, but we can control how we prepare for it, and that starts with having a plan, knowing some evacuation routes, having some days of food and non-perishable food and water on hand, some batteries, AM, FM radios, first aid kit, flashlights, candles, that whole deal. In addition to having all that, we want to make sure that our insurance coverage can weather the storm. So we're going to review all those policies, make sure the coverage is appropriate to assist with claims. It could be advisable to take pictures and or videos of your home and valuables to assist with any personal claims. We want to see everyone come through this season intact. And our next article, are stocks expensive? Look at the PE ratios. There is a lot of talk that you'll hear in newsletters, periodicals, on TV. Stocks are expensive. Stocks are overvalued. They're undervalued. What exactly is the reference point for these opinions? One of the most common ways to measure the value of a stock is to look at its price-to-earnings ratio. For example, a company with a PE of 20 means that investors are willing to pay $20 for every $1 of earnings. By that standard, a stock with a PE of 25 could be considered more quote-unquote expensive, regardless of the share price. It's important when we compare PE ratios to generally stick within the industries in which those companies are drawn. For instance, we don't want to compare, say, a information technologies company with a mining issue or a utility, because it's a little bit unfair. One is a very high growth stock, the other is not. And before we make any changes to our portfolio based on PE ratios or any criteria, you want to sit down, get a second opinion, make sure that any changes that you make are going to be in line with your goals, your time horizon, and most importantly, your risk tolerance. And our last article, how AI is helping the IRS modernize. After years of slow audits, taxpayer frustration, and endless paperwork, the IRS is beginning to leverage artificial intelligence to, number one, help fraud detection, number two, provide better taxpayer service, whether that's reducing wait times, freeing up agents to work on complex issues that require human intervention. And already these efforts are paying off. In 2024, the IRS was reported that the IRS using AI was able to recover almost $4 billion in fraud. So, yeah, kudos to them, and hopefully they continue on that path. And that is your 2026 newsletter in a nutshell.
I wonder if they actually recovered it or if they identified to be recovered. Because how much juices are in those turnips? If you weren't paying your taxes.
Well, if they say they recovered it, honey, that means that they got the dough.
Okay.
Where does the recovered dough? Do they split it amongst themselves?
Well, it goes back to the Treasury, where it should be, right? Goes back to the kitty to be consumed by others, right? And we do want to mention our phone lines are open. Nobody else could talk on the radio like us. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the KTRS text line. We always have a lot of things on our mind. What's more important is what's on yours. So give us a call today or send us a text.
And we do have a couple of texts that have already come in.
Fabulous.
First one being, we have overfunded our daughter's 529, and she will have an excess of approximately $120,000 remaining after she completes college. We plan to leave a portion for her children down the road. We understand that she can convert up to $35,000 into a Roth over 5 years once she's out of school and generating W-2 income. However, we have also heard that, and unfortunately the text didn't fully come through, so I'm assuming that there's a few questions here about the conversion from 529 to Roth. So I thought we could just go over what the basic rules are there. And so the first being, you'll want to make sure that she remains the beneficiary while you are doing that conversion over the next 5 years, or not the next 5, but when she graduates and she has W-2 income, because the beneficiary must have W-2 income to do the conversion. So it's just like a Roth contribution. You have to have earned income in order to do this, but you don't have an income limitation. So you could be a higher income earner, have a 529 you want to convert into Roth. You can do that, but you still have to show earned income. So 1, you have to have earned income. 2, the beneficiary needs to be the owner of the Roth. So from beneficiary, parents can be owner of 529, child is beneficiary. Child would then be the one that you're doing the conversion to the Roth for.
You're limited to the conversion amount being the contribution limit?
That's also true. So you are limited every year, which is, I believe, why they're saying, the $35,000 is the max you can do. $7,500 this year is the max you can do if you're under 50 years old into the Roth. So, assuming that it stays consistent, you've got to do it in about a 5-year period. Then you can switch. Can we convert excess Roth to prior to W-2 income? No, you cannot. You must have W-2 income in order to do this. The 529 plan had to be in existence for 16 years. All the money you're converting has to be in the account for at least 5 years. And like Rob mentioned, you can only convert the Roth contribution limit. And then the final caveat is the beneficiary must have earned income. The owner never has to have earned income to do this, because the Roth isn't going into the owner's name, it's going into the beneficiary's name. Then the next step would be, many 529 plans will allow you to split automatically. So let's say that your daughter has 2 children, you've got the balance of the 529 plan left. If you want to split it in 2 immediately, you can do that, or you can just rename the beneficiary to your first or your second grandchild and then continue to rename that 529 until the funds are exhausted, or if you want to do other conversions for other children down the road.
So I just had an idea.
Uh-oh.
This is Mr. Anti-Roth is having an idea.
Okay.
I was thinking that, let's assume for a moment, Roth isn't actually, there's no age limitation on Roth, correct?
What do you mean?
When you're creating a Roth, how old, is there an age limitation?
No, but you have to have earned income.
Well, no, I'm talking about if I'm creating, let's say I wanted to create a Roth for you.
Please.
You're over the age of 18.
I am indeed.
So, but there isn't any minimum or maximum age contribution to start a Roth, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I like this idea. You're going to like this idea even better, babe.
Mm-hmm.
So let's assume that you were someone who wanted to begin to move assets to your children,
mm-hmm.
and they're grown up. Let's assume that they're adults. And let's also assume that they have, fair incomes, and they're not eligible to make Roth contributions.
Right.
Like you. So what we could do is we could make a contribution to a 529,
mm-hmm.
let it grow income tax deferred,
mm-hmm.
and then have you begin to do a conversion process.
16 years later.
Well, it's not like you're old. That was the part you didn't mention.
Well, okay, so you've taken this in a completely different direction. You're off the question that
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think, did you mention the 16-year part?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just I was in my own mind there for a moment.
Okay, so you're saying, like, hey, all grandmas and grandpas out there, you could create 529 plans. Grandchildren don't have to have any income now.
They don't care.
Right. It doesn't matter how much income they have in the future, because down the line, 16 years from the day you create the Roth or longer, you could start to convert it into Roth. But you do want to be careful, because you don't want to go above $35,000, because that's the maximum per person that you can convert, regardless of the amount of time you have to convert.
Right, but couldn't they also take the balance of that and then change the name on the account to their children?
Oh, certainly. I'm just saying that per number of children, like, you don't want to go wild with the 529, because you might end up with some money that's going to be difficult for you to get out.
And this would also be a way of getting around having to file a gift tax return if you're doing large amounts. Contributions to the 529s.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
I'm like it. You know, I'm going to come up with this. I'm going to figure this out. And then we're going to talk about it in a little more detail. But I think I'm onto something here. What do you think? Being the recipient and beneficiary of one half of the money.
I guess the other question would be, how old can you be of any age? Well, you could be of any age to start a 529 plan, too, because we currently have clients that are actually in the process of converting 529 plan funds that were their children into their own Roth accounts. They decided that, they put the money aside for their kids' school. They paid for that. It's over. They want the money back, so to speak. Well, it was leftover funds.
Yeah,
and for my retirement, I'd like the money back. So they changed the beneficial owner of the account to themselves, and then we started the conversions.
Well, that's right. So they could do...
As long as you have earned income, guys, you got to have that.
So when you're talking about this, you're also... I'm just thinking now, okay, so when we talk about excess monies,
mm-hmm.
you could put it in for you,
mm-hmm.
but I could also, if I owned it
mm-hmm.
on you, I could actually... because I'm going to be here in 15 years, swear to God, I could begin to do conversions then.
And apparently you'll still have earned income.
Yes. I have a good deal.
So, yes, in this sweetheart deal, you could, if you would like a Roth, Dad.
This is great.
Yeah, but it's only going to be worth It's only going to be worth $35,000 in 21 years.
It's not the point.
Okay.
It's taking advantage of the laws that exist.
I think this is an excellent example. This is a fantastic example of sometimes doing a little many two acrobatics to get to the same spot, which is nowhere.
Okay.
But I like where you're going with this. I mean, if you could come up with I'll
refine this a little bit.
Or we come up with a specific fix that this solves, a problem that this would solve.
You mean
you not having a Roth, I guess, is the problem this solves.
Well, sure. Might be fun. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
We've got a couple of additional... we have one additional 529 question up here I want to grab before we move on.
And our next texter writes, if I'm the person who creates the 529 plan, is there a current day tax savings that I realize by putting the money into this plan?
So in Missouri, if you contribute to a Missouri 529 plan, it's not the person that created it; it's the person making the contribution. You do receive a bit of tax relief, so you'll want to go on to Most 529, and they'll give you the specific contribution amounts that you can make. That will actually give you a little bit of state tax relief, not federal. That's it.
If you need it, because the Missouri legislature, they're looking at it, baby.
Oh no!
Right?
No income
now.
Tax.
Oh, that would be.
It would be interesting. That would be Illinois-ish.
We'll definitely keep our eye on that.
They'd all move here. We have lower gas prices, better baseball team. Hello.
Also, my goodness, if you're under 65 years old looking for health insurance and you do not qualify for any subsidy, the prices in Illinois are backbreaking is what I'll call it. I just did some math for a couple of clients that were bridging from end of COBRA to 65 years old, and to cover a couple of two, wife is 64, luckily will only have to be on this policy for 2 or 3 months, husband is 61, it's going to be $2,800 for a bronze level high deductible policy.
That's crazy.
It's like more expensive than a mortgage. It's crazy.
Not good.
Anyway, nope.
It's called go back to work for a couple of days, get covered by your plan, quit, go on COBRA again, start your COBRA rights again.
My goodness, I mean, that would definitely give me pause to have to go. But luckily, we'll be able to, there's always things we can do. They're not going to have to be on that for 4 years. But
thank goodness.
It was a little shocking because I'm used to looking at Missouri.
That's strange because I know that they're, from what I've heard from you and Rob and also from Frank, is that their Medicare,
their supplement costs are about 25% less expensive.
Right. So they kill you before you retire and afterwards.
Well, they don't need the money then because you're dead, I guess.
There you go.
Or they took it all. All right. Before we take our first break of the hour, why don't we get to another? I thought this was an excellent text question. We actually got it at the very end of our last show last week.
And our texter writes, I own my home in South County and a lake house in Cuba, Missouri. Their combined value is about $800,000, and we owe $175,000. If we sell them both to downsize, what are the tax implications and IRMAA issues we will face? Currently, my wife and I have a yearly income of about $160,000.
Well, we don't know what the cost basis is.
We didn't get the cost basis information, but we know that there are two homes. One sounds like a primary home. Well, obviously, one must be the primary home. The other is a vacation home or just a secondary home. Not sure if they have the lake house and the South County house. So, I mean, if we're being conservative, we're guessing South County is their home and the lake house is a vacation house. When we got this text, I sent a quick note back to the texter saying, do we have to do this both in 1 year?
Well, we know that with their primary residence, the first $500,000 of profit over their cost basis is income tax free.
Right. And so that's what I was thinking. These two properties are going to be treated differently in terms of taxes. Primary home, you're going to get that $500,000 exclusion. So what you paid for the house plus any improvements you made is what is your basis. What you sell it for, you subtract that. What that difference is your gain or potentially your loss. If you have a gain, you get to stack $500,000 on there, and as long as you don't exceed $500,000 of gain, you don't have any taxes. So I thought, hey, well, if you're going to sell both eventually, what if you sell the one
and move to the other?
Move to the other, stay there 1 year. You get another.
I thought it was 18 months.
I'm sorry, you're right, 18 months. And then you get the exclusion is not limited by lifetime, it's limited by time. So you have to be in a residence for 18 months in order to get that exclusion again. So you could potentially sell both properties, maybe not having any tax liability.
Well, and if you didn't want to do that, though, if they were determined to sell both at the same time.
Right.
The primary property, again, unless they have more than a $500,000 gain above their basis, no tax.
Right.
The other one, though, is like any other piece of property. It's an investment. They'll have to look at what their basis is, compare that to sales price. Difference would be a gain, and they got to pay taxes on that gain, and that gain would then be added to their income for IRMAA purposes.
Right, and if they're already at $160,000 of income, then they don't have very far to go, because what's the first threshold for married filing jointly?
212, so they got about $50,000.
Right, so if your gain in the lake house is over $50,000, then for 1 year, 2 years from the sale of the property, you will have an increased premium. This year, how much does it increase the premium?
It would go up about $75. You'd be paying about $270
per person. So those numbers adjust every year, but just know that you'd have about it's like a 40% increase on your Medicare premium per person.
Let's have a little fun with this if we can.
Okay.
I'm thinking, because this is not dissimilar to somebody that maybe is selling a business.
Or a highly appreciated security or anything with gains. So
I'm going to make the assumption that both of these properties are paid for.
They still owe $100. Oh, you're going to make up a new fact situation.
A new fact. Let's assume that their primary residence is paid for, and that the loan is on the investment property.
Okay.
Which is cool. Okay, which is fine. So let's also assume for a moment that these folks are currently charitably minded. They belong to church. They're involved with other
donor advised fund.
A donor advised fund. So let's say for fun that they have a $50,000 taxable gain,
and it's going to put them into the IRMAA.
Or $100,000 gain. That's going to make them IRMAA eligible. Let's also assume at the same time that they contribute, let's say, a couple $1,000s a year donation to a church, maybe to some other organizations.
Annual $3,000 of charitable donations.
Let's say it's even $5,000.
Okay, make it round, $5,000.
One way that they could save taxes is by really grouping these together to say, okay, create a donor advised fund, which basically is almost like your own personal private charitable foundation.
Without the tax reporting.
Without the tax. Exactly, without a lot of the issue
requirements.
And so pre-fund that. So if they're giving away $5,000 per year right now, well, why don't we make a contribution of $50,000?
So let's do,
and that will permit them to itemize their deductions because they're going to get over the limit. They'll get that deduction all up front, and then what's cool is that money, they'll obviously have the cash sitting in their donor advised fund account, be invested, growing, but then they get to decide how they send the money out.
And so just quickly for everyone to review, a donor advised fund is a fund that's offered by many fund companies.
Sponsored by them.
They're sponsored by many fund companies. And what this allows you to do is as you are making contributions to this fund, you are able to take a tax deduction in that year for the donation that you've made. The money is no longer yours. It's left your estate. So you cannot pull it back again. But you don't actually have to give it out to a specific charity the year that you put it into the fund. So you can think about it as a holding vessel for future charitable donations. So, Dad, this is a great idea because we know in our situation that our clients are going to be making $5,000 a year donations no matter what. Why don't we avoid the taxes by reducing their taxable income, taking $50,000 of that gain, putting it into the donor advised fund, and they will continue over the next 10 years to send that money out to church, to the charities that they always have.
Or new ones.
And also there's an added benefit here, which is that many of the donor-advised funds, because they are sponsored by fund companies, will allow you to reinvest the funds that you have moved into that account, which means potentially you would be able to be more charitable down the line because over the next 10 years, as you're making those $5,000 annual donations, hopefully the balance is growing, which means we could extend the life of those donations for you, or you just have more money to give out on an annual basis.
You know, the beauty of a donor advised fund is that the IRS does not have a requirement that you have to send a certain percentage of the assets, certain amount during the year. You can skip if you want with other types of trusts that are set up.
You have to do percentages.
Exactly, and usually it's a minimum of like 5%. But this is cool. So you can give money as you want, do the amount that you want. Again, we're talking about pre-funding. So,
and let's just stop. I know our listeners are very smart, so they're already thinking just like you, Dad, how do we take advantage of this? If you are required minimum distribution eligible, unfortunately, you cannot move required minimum distribution money into a donor advised fund and have it count as a donation. So if you were thinking like, hey, I could move a bunch in or every year move a bunch in, the IRS does not allow you to donate to a donor advised fund using your required minimum distribution money and have that as a deduction. So it would have to be sizable. You'd have to exceed the standard deduction in your example, because you would literally have to take the required minimum distribution. If you don't want to have the taxes withheld because you're confident you can make the donation, that's fine. Then you would be able to donate to the donor advised fund and take the deduction at the end versus donating directly to charity from your IRA and having that not count and having that be automatically non-taxable to you. So you do want to be careful about making those, you want to be careful about what you're choosing to donate into these funds.
You know, it's so much fun because the Internal Revenue Code gives us these tools, weapons, if you want to think of it. And the playbook, right, to do battle in terms of how you reduce your taxes. So it's always good to get a second opinion, not only from maybe your financial advisor, but also a tax professional in terms of doing this planning. Because sometimes these taxable events are planned. You've got time to think about it, et cetera. You're negotiating the deal, whatever it would be, or sometimes they're quick with sale of property, and so you have this tax year, which is only 4 months old.
Right. So you
figure stuff out before the 12. It doesn't have to be done before the event, et cetera. But these donor advised funds, at least for our clients, are becoming more and more useful, more prevalent, because we're seeing the transfer of the family farms away from family members to other families.
Yes, they're starting to sell them as opposed to
they're not being
transitioned.
We're also seeing many of our, and my friends, of course, baby boomer generations that are transitioning their businesses.
The sale of a business can be an incredibly
and we're going to talk about this
significant tax situation.
After we take our break, and we also answer all of your phone calls and text at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
This is the Big 550 KTRS St. Louis, Alton, Valley Park, St. Charles, and the world.
Streaming live at KTRS.com.
It's the spring clearance sale at Miller Furniture and Mattress now through April 21st.
I'm Mark Miller, owner of Miller Furniture, your home for quality American-made furniture since 1927. Don't miss savings of up to 75% off our list price throughout all 4 showrooms. Plus, get up to 60 months special financing.
We have more American-made furniture than ever to choose from. Finish every room in your home with quality Amish-made furniture in today's updated styles.
See our new spring styles on display, including our fully stocked Flex Steel and Smith Brothers furniture galleries.
It's time to get the quality sleep you deserve. Right now, take half off any Chapman Wells luxury mattress when you purchase an adjustable base.
Visit any of our 4 locations, Belleville, Fairview Heights, Lake St. Louis, or Ellisville, to save on over $8 million of inventory with delivery as fast as tomorrow.
Don't miss the spring clearance sale at Miller Furniture now through April 21st and save up to 75%.
At Miller Furniture, we put the family in furniture. Shop online at MUELLERfurniture.com.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Lang with Carter Pet Hospital, inviting you to join me every Sunday afternoon from 2 to 3 p.m. for the Animal Advice Show on the Big 550 KTRS.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Welcome back. It's 9:38 here on the Big 550 KTRS. The first hour is flying.
That's right.
We've got 2 hours of fun on tap for you. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877, or it's filling up. We love that. Text line at 84126.
And our next texter writes, what age do I have to be to take out a beneficiary Roth IRA?
So I think they might have missed a word, take money out of a beneficiary Roth IRA.
If you're alive, you have to take money out.
Well, so, right. The rules for beneficiary IRAs and Roth IRAs are a little different than traditional IRAs and a Roth IRA that you own. So, Rob, what are those rules for beneficiary accounts?
For non-spouse beneficiary IRA, Roth IRA, you have 10 years to empty that. Now, there are no taxes on any.
10 years from the date of
the date of
the person's death.
Exactly, when you take possession of it. So you have 10 years. You're on the clock. You're not subject to required minimum distributions because Roth accounts don't have them. But the entire account must be liquidated over 10 years.
So as soon as you inherit the account, you're eligible to take money from a beneficiary Roth. However, you're not required to take money out, but the account must be liquidated in the 10th year. And then with traditional IRAs, if you are a non-spouse beneficiary? How do those work?
If the person you're inheriting the traditional IRA from is already taking their RMDs, in addition to inheriting their IRA account, you've also inherited their RMD schedule, so that's going to be the floor of what you have to take, and you're still on that 10-year clock, so that has to be completely liquidated in 10 years.
Right, so be careful with this, because the required minimum distribution that you take from a beneficiary IRA is not 1/10 of the account. So that means if you have it set up that you're just going to take the required minimum distribution, you're going to let the custodian calculate it for you and just send it right out every year. By the time you get to the 10th year, you're going to have more than only 10% left in the account, because the RMD, although you inherit the schedule, you don't inherit the age schedule of the RMD. It actually resets to your age, so it lowers from what the owner was taking. So that's why, for most people, it's going to be significantly less than a 10% pull.
Right. You really have to be 90 for it to be. The person you're inheriting had to have been 90 years old for you.
No, you have to be 90 years old in order for it to, because I was reading about this recently. That was it's confusing. You have to take an RMD, but it's not the same unless it's the year that the person passed away. You have to complete that. But the next year, it's going to reset, not to calculate, not based on the owner's age anymore.
Yeah, I would just add that anyone who inherits a retirement account, whether Roth or traditional, if you don't have a financial advisor, this would be a good time to get one, because you certainly want to understand all the rules and what exactly your options are, and just exactly the lay of the land as to what you should do.
It's a great point. Also, not just, I completely agree, knowing what the rules are, because you certainly don't want to be penalized and have to give up some of your inheritance. But what's the most efficient and effective way for you to incorporate this new money into not only your portfolio, but into your long-term plan that could have, it could have varying impacts depending upon your age. So,
age, situation, where you are in your work history, are
Certainly.
you making the most contributions you are at work? It's a much bigger discussion than
just
it would
take
seem.
The cash.
Exactly. On the front end, it seems really, really cut and dry, but it actually is quite a bit more than that.
Yeah, I would say that, we're seeing most of the folks that are inheriting these IRAs are usually in their 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting close to, or really starting to think about, when do I want to step away from my work?
Mm-hmm.
And so the timing of taking these payments amounts over, if we're talking about amounts over and above the required minimum, which is usually no more than 4%.
Right.
Can really be timed very well to when we don't want to take out more during our higher earning income years. We would prefer to take more in our retirement years.
Right, so you really could say, like, I'm only going to pull the minimum. Let's say you're retiring in 2 years from when you inherited an account. Well, maybe we're taking the minimum for the last 2 years of your career because we got to. But then, as soon as you retire, we can accelerate the payouts, and essentially we're using an inherited money to help kick off your retirement versus going directly to your saved assets.
Yeah, let's run an example here just for fun. Let's say that you inherit an IRA worth $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that you have to empty that, obviously, within a 10-year period. Let's say that you're age 60.
Okay.
So, and you've said to yourself, you know what, I want to retire at age 65, and I'm thinking, if I could, I'd love to be able to maybe hold off taking my Social Security benefits until
70?
70, 73, whatever it would be.
You don't want to wait till 73 to take Social Security.
Right. So let's say 70 at the most, or even say past 60, past my normal retirement date.
So between 65 and 70.
Exactly. Well, think about it. What you could do is make those minimum pull-outs, let's say $4,000 to $5,000 a year, pulling out over the first 5 years.
First 5 years.
And then increase your contributions. Your distributions
to meet what Social Security was going to be.
Exactly, until you get to that target date, and then Zappo.
Or that becomes your target date, which is depending upon how the account is performed, how much you've had to pull out, all those pieces. You get to that 5th year when you do retire at 65. We've got 5 years left. Theoretically, there should be at least about $50,000 plus growth in the account. Sure. When that runs out, we say, hey, baby, that's exactly when we say the next month is your Social Security check.
I mean, and the cool part about this is that these distributions even though they're taxable as income, they're not considered wages, earned income. So let's assume that you're back on the amount of time that you're working.
Right, you could use this to be the initial supplement versus trying to use your own money or
and
Social Security.
I think the big deal here, and again, we're only talking about one potential scenario, but the take back before your normal retirement age in terms of working and with Social Security can prevent people from doing some of the things that they want to do. So in many cases, we're looking at IRA distribution, normal ones, but certainly beneficiary IRA distributions could easily be done. And Erin, you know, we've done it many times. We're exhausting those accounts first.
I literally just
and letting our clients have their own IRA accounts.
We just had a client retire April 1st. They have an income need of $4,000 a month, and they have an $80,000 beneficiary IRA that they inherited from their mom about 2 years ago. For the past 2 years, we have taken just her minimum distribution.
About $3,000, $3 to $4,000.
Exactly. And we even already took the $3,000 to start the year off because we didn't think she was going to retire, but she decided, hey, this is my moment, I'm retiring. And so we decided that she's going to have to take this money anyway over the next 8 years. And it's taxable the same way that her IRA assets would be taxable if we were taking distributions from there. So why don't we let mom fund the first couple of years of retirement strictly using the beneficiary IRA? It does a couple of things aside from at least let you feel as though you're extending the life of your own retirement assets. It helps you clean something up. Like, let's be honest, having to keep track of all of these pieces, even if you have a financial advisor, can be a little bit annoying. So knowing we're going to take $4,000 a month from that beneficiary IRA, we know for as long as that account's going to be in existence over the next few years, she's meeting the requirement every year. We don't have to do anything more. And then that account's going to drain out, and as soon as that happens, we'll just switch over to her own account. She'll feel no different. It'll just be paperwork on our side, but we're kind of killing a few birds with one stone on that. And it's not uncommon. So now we can put to use what you felt like was, excellent that you inherited something, but now it's like this piece. What do I do with it? It didn't fit in everywhere else. How do we integrate it into what you have?
I mean, we have clients doing all kinds of things with these. I have a mortgage. I want to make sure I would like to get rid of it by the time I retire. We hear that a lot. Yeah. Well, great.
This is a great way.
So, I mean, first of all, we're not going to dump it.
Sure.
At one time, we don't want to pay Uncle Sam much tax because most likely you're still working. So, great. What we'll do is we'll pay it out over a period of years. Amortize, liquidate the obligation. It makes sense. You can be the fun part here for us is that we can be as creative as you want us to be.
Also, the cool thing is we get to be relatively precise now because we do know what the tax brackets are going to be unless Congress changes them. So that is a nice runway for us to plan.
And that seems unlikely, at least in the short term.
Agreed. And so I've already accumulated quite a few notes for November timeframe to go back to individuals that we've already met with this year that we've planned to either we want to pay off a debt more rapidly. We've talked about, we could send you the money now to maximize our tax brackets or maximize that additional deduction that the Trump big beautiful bill provided to people over 65. There are lots of new additional tax breaks that we're trying to take advantage of over the next few years. But what if the unexpected comes up, unfortunately, and we have to withdraw money from your IRA account? The goal was to stay within the tax bracket we are in. Obviously, if you go above the bracket, the world doesn't end because we're only looking at the next dollar is going to be in the next bracket. But if we want to be true planners, why don't we wait till the end, see if the unforeseen happened? If it didn't, we know how much to send you. If it did, we subtract out, like let's say we had said, you got about $10,000 we can send before you get to the next bracket. Well, if you have to spend $5,000 on the water heater this year or on the new HVAC system, now we just subtract that out because we know we had to send that excess to you for something else. We'll just send you the $5,000 this year to get, and we're still meeting both goals, but we're still doing it in a tax efficient way. So that's what our plans are.
Life is good. Let's take our last break of the hour. We come back, we'll be here to answer your calls and your texts at 314-931-5877 or 84126. See you soon.
Big 550 KTRS St. Louis, Alton, Valley Park, St. Charles, and the world.
Streaming live at KTRS.com.
Can I get serious for a moment? Something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is my front yard and taking care of your front yard. Because when you drive by someone's house and it's full of weeds, you think to yourself, oh man, it's very, very simple. You know how much I love to pretend to be a yard dork. You know what I use? Fertilome. I go to fertilome.com and I type in my zip code, and a whole host of local independent lawn and garden dealers show up. I buy the crabgrass preventer plus lawn food. It's the spring application. I get it down on my yard as soon as possible, and that greens up my yard and keeps the weeds away. So it makes me look like I know what I'm doing. But really, all I'm doing is getting Fertilome and putting it on my front yard. And that will take care of my yard for many, many, many weeks, and it go a long way to having the greenest yard in the block. So, this spring, you want to green up your yard and get rid of the weeds? It all starts at Fertilome or fertilome.com.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
You're selling your home, and I want to buy it. This is Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I am ready to pay top dollar for your home. No contingencies, no inspections, no monkey business. I buy your home no matter the condition or location, and you walk away with cash. Call me, Mike Robinson, at 314-283-0867, 314-283-0867, or at robankproperties.com. That's ROBANG properties.com.
Sunday, April 26th is packed with fun. When the Cardinals welcome the Seattle Mariners, you can score a classic chain-stitch Cardinals hat presented by Coca-Cola. Plus, kids 12 and under receive a Fredbird Hall of Fame ring presented by the Pasta House Company. And get the chance to run the bases after the game. Giveaways, post-game fun, and Cardinals baseball all in one big Sunday showdown. Get your tickets now at cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Matthew Liberatore. Get your tickets now at cardinals.com.
Every Sunday home game is a Kids Sunday at Busch Stadium. From Team Fredbird and games to a kid-friendly DJ, ice cream, and family-favorite activities. Sundays are built for young fans. Plus, select Sundays feature kids run the bases after the game. It's a day made for smiles, memories, and Cardinals baseball together. Make Sundays your family tradition at Busch Stadium. Tickets and details at cardinals.com/KidsSunday.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Welcome back to the show. We have about 7 minutes left in hour number one to answer your calls and your texts, and we're going to do that right this moment.
They just keep rolling in.
And we love that. And our next texter writes, what if you inherit your spouse's IRA? Is the RMD based on their age or yours?
Well, this is the greatest news about inheriting an IRA from a spouse. If you are not required minimum distribution eligible and you import your spouse's IRA into your own, then you do not have an RMD yet. If you leave the IRA in your spouse's name and they have RMDs to take, it's their age. If you're both required minimum distribution eligible and you combine the IRAs, it's based on your age.
Yeah, I think what's important here is that these new rules that we continue to refer to, that basically the 10-year and out rule, does not apply to spouses. When you inherit a spouse's account, the Internal Revenue Code basically sets that there are unlimited transfers during life and death between spouses. So you aren't subject to that 10-year rule unless you do something kind of crazy. And we've had a couple clients that have done this. Instead of naming their spouse as the beneficiary, they name their trust.
That makes it an entity.
Exactly. And therefore, guess what? Their spouse was then being treated
as a non-spouse.
And you don't want to do that.
But just because there are unlimited transfers in life and after between spouses doesn't necessarily mean that if you are the surviving spouse that you want to transfer the assets into your name.
Right.
There are situations where you might consider leaving the assets. They're all still yours. They're just separate, and as they remain separate, the IRS will see them separately.
I think a real easy and certainly an illustration that we can give that folks would appreciate is, let's just assume that one spouse is significantly older than the other spouse. Okay,
yep.
where the one that and that older spouse passed away, you may have been taking distributions from their retirement plan to help supplement your income stream. You want to continue to do that. If let's say the surviving spouse is under the age of 59 and a half. If you take that deceased spouse assets, you combine them with the surviving spouse assets,
they're no longer eligible for distribution without penalty because now all the assets are in the younger spouse's name.
Right.
But if you left that IRA in your spouse's name, you could continue to make distributions from it
until
you get to 59 and a half, and then you could move it all over.
Exactly.
Or you could, if that's the income that you want, you can just keep it coming. You don't have to ever combine them. And
I mean, there's a possibility, even though it might be small, is that the distribution that you're making from your spouse's IRA is more than you want. Right?
Right. You actually have the ability to control that now.
Exactly. You have some control. So lots of options out there. But again, the bottom line is the only RMD that you have to worry about with a deceased spouse is the year of death. You have to make sure that they've taken all the money out during that year. Then the surviving spouse can do what they want. The IRS still requires their money.
And the only thing I would add is if you are expected to have an inheritance or you recently got one, get a second opinion before you make any wholesale changes and do something that might be irreversible. If you take money from an IRA, it can't go back in.
That's a great point. The other thing that I was going to make mention of is that, especially in these situations, when you're making these decisions, like you said, Rob, sometimes they are irreversible, but also, it gives you a lot of great opportunities.
And sometimes the rules change.
That's right.
And our next texter writes, "Good morning, Jeff, Erin, and Rob. My wife and I just had a new home built, which is valued at $760,000. I borrowed $475,000 on a 30-year loan at 6.125 to have it constructed. I have not moved in yet. When I sell my current home and a condominium that I own, that will generate $400,000. Our retirement account total is $2.7 million, and I have no other debt. Do you recommend that I pay off the new home loan? Thank you."
So we're going to have $400,000 of proceeds, and we have a $475,000 home loan.
You have to ask yourself, whoever's texted this has to ask their spouse, are they going to lose sleep over having a mortgage payment? Do they have one now? I mean, if you don't have one now, typically you don't really want to have one. If you do have one,
people with no debt tend to not want to maintain debt.
Who wants it? At the same time, based on, again, we don't know what your cash flow needs are, but it sounds to me, I'm thinking.
Easily supportable.
Exactly. And, during your working lifetime, you were able to support debt.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of cool to be in a position where you can pay it off if you want, whenever you want.
I think that's a great point. Also, I mean, there are many things we don't know about our texture, but one of which is what is their current after-tax savings looking like? What's the vault? We know they have $2.7 million in IRA assets, but I love this as a situation where it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You have $400,000 in cash. You could put some of it towards the house, keep paying that down faster. Put some into your vault, have some excess. Maybe you want a vacation after you just built a house.
Yeah.
My goodness.
And
how about that redecorating allowance?
Right, and the furniture and all those other pieces. But I think, that's right. We still got a few seconds. So I would say I wouldn't just take that whole $400,000 and dump it right into the mortgage immediately. I would say, first of all, maybe plan it out a little bit. How much do we need for all of those other pieces? And if you want to take the excess, put it in, then I say, let's absolutely do it that way, because then you're going to cut that interest rate down. People don't think about this. You can limit your interest in more than one way. You don't just have to refinance. If you pay it off faster, you will have paid less interest.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice in making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Welcome back, everyone, to hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement. As you know, we kick hour number 2 off with our Smart Choices About Your Healthcare segment.
Because you care, we talk Medicare.
Let's talk.
Let's talk a little bit about Don.
Okay.
Don had he didn't have the best experience when he first came on to Medicare several years ago. He was convinced to go with a Medigap plan and from a certain insurance company rather than going with some of the cheaper options that were available to him.
Okay.
Back when Don started Medicare, Plan F was starting about $200 monthly. To put that into perspective, Plan F now is starting at $300 monthly. Don's Plan F started at $300 10 years ago. So just to give you an idea, he's now paying $550 monthly for his Plan F. And he used an independent agent, and they convinced him to go with one plan over another. And, Don was obviously not too thrilled with the $550 monthly premium for his Plan F. And, he wanted to use his Missouri anniversary rule to reduce his monthly payment on that Plan F. And, we were able to find him a policy with Aetna for about $440 a month. So that's saving him $110 monthly or $1,300, a little over $1,300 for the year.
Okay.
And he gets the exact same benefit on his Plan F because each insurance provider, their Medigap plans, are standardized, meaning all the rules are the same per plan. So no matter which
Plan F or, we're talking about Plan F because Don enrolled quite a long time ago. Plan F isn't readily available any longer for people newly enrolling into Medicare. But if you choose a Plan G or a Plan N that have become more popular, it doesn't matter what insurance company you purchase these supplements through. They are federally standardized, which means each company is required to provide you with the same base benefits that Medicare describes that plan supplement to offer.
Absolutely. And, since we were on the subject of talking about the plans and, the different price structures and so on and so forth, he just flat out asked, how do you guys get paid? How does this work? And, it's not an unreasonable question to ask, especially given what he had gone through. He kind of felt like he was persuaded to go with something that wasn't necessarily what
in his best interest.
Correct.
Okay.
So let's just go through it. On the supplement plans that we offer, we get paid directly by the insurance companies. So our services, there's never a cost to sit down with us. We're paid by the insurance companies. And
that should be true of any individual that you work with, because although how we are paid may be slightly different for each agent, every insurance company pays directly to the agent that has sold the policy on your behalf. So they should not be charging you for consultation. It's a rule. So if you're sitting down with someone that's charging you for their opinion, in addition to signing you up for something, you might want to chat with someone else. But
my policy and Frank's policy, and I know your policy, is to always show people the cheapest rate, and then go on to show you the next the next closest toist. the next closest options. For example, Linda turned 65 and wants to join a Plan G to start on May 1st. I'm going to show Linda the best price, which in her case was HealthSpring at $190 a month. I'm then going to give her the next two best options, Anthem at $192 and United Healthcare at $200. I will then go down the list and find another credible insurance company, in which case, in her case, it was Aetna. It was ranked 6th on the list for $230 monthly. This way, Linda knows her cheapest option, followed by several other options for her to choose from. If she wants the cheapest, she will go with HealthSpring. If she wants silver sneakers, perhaps maybe we pick Anthem.
And let's slow down for a second, because we're looking at a $2 difference between HealthSpring, which many people are not familiar with. However, they are a very large insurance provider. So we're always, when we talk about offering the least expensive option, we're only talking about the least expensive option in the realm of A-plus rated insurance companies. So you may not be very familiar with every name on the list. However, if you were to look them up, you would find that they are well rated or credible companies. But if we're looking at the difference between HealthSpring at $190 a month versus Anthem at $192 a month, there are some differences in the extra benefits or services that these plans will offer, but the base benefits remain the same. Anthem does include silver sneakers with their supplemental plans. So Linda might say, for $2 a month, yeah, I want silver sneakers, let's do it.
Or on the other side of that, the United plan, the United supplement plan, is only $200 if she was interested in going with Renew Active, because they don't line up perfectly.
Right. So the services, so silver sneakers services certain gyms. So depending upon what gym you want to or already are a member of, you might want to go silver sneakers. Renew Active has a totally different list of gyms. So
Absolutely.
Same idea.
And there is a lot of crossover between the two, but it's not one for one. There's like 85% where I've seen some facilities. We just had a case not too long ago where
Olivet Community Center, right,
was not part of the silver sneakers. It was part of Renew Active, so we were able to get someone moved over so that they could take advantage of it. Relatively easy fix.
And that's a great point, because even if we're talking about between HealthSpring and the United Healthcare plan, that's a $10 difference, right? Well,
Absolutely.
With Renew Active, you have access to, if you can get in, to Lifetime Fitness. I believe that membership for an individual is in the $100 range, and for a family, it's in the $200 range. So, yeah, I want my Lifetime gym membership at 10% of the cost. So sometimes it might make sense to buy up in premium because you're getting some extra benefit. But if we are simply comparing, you're like, I don't care about silver sneakers, I don't care about service, because that's what Rob and Frank are for. I just want the least expensive plan option. We're going to be at the best at one of the more reputable companies. That's the way that we construct our process.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the standalone prescription drug plans.
Well, right. Let's talk about them, because everybody, if you choose a supplement, you have to add a prescription drug plan to it. You don't have both automatically included.
Correct. Most of these plans, and there's only about 10 to choose from at this point, do not pay anything anymore as far as commissions to us. This is still a part of the service that we offer for free. There's no commission that we get, but we understand that you need this service, so obviously we're not going to let you
just have to go. Sorry, we'll show you what you. Our goal is that we're creating a healthcare plan for you. We're piecing things together, not only helping you with your enrollment into Medicare, so it's timely and there are no penalties or delays, but then helping you create coverage for your retirement that you're comfortable with. We're compensated for that work. And we feel, at least at our agency, that even if we are not compensated for every piece of the work, the overall compensation is enough for us. So you're not going to leave our office with just a supplemental plan because the commissions on the prescription plans are low. We're going to not only help facilitate that for you, there's another reason we want to facilitate that for you. We're not just point-of-service agents, so that means if something comes up on your plan, Rob and Frank are going to be available for you to speak to. if they're not the agents on your plan, it makes it even more difficult. So in order for us to do the service work that we promise when you sit down with us, we really do want to be the agents on everything related to your health insurance. So, the supplement and the prescription drug plan or the Medicare Advantage plan, depending upon what you selected. So that way, when you call with an issue, which hopefully you never will, for everyone's sake, we don't want you to be upset. We don't want the insurance company not to do what they have said, and we certainly don't want to, have to jump into the middle. But we will, and if we do need to, it facilitates us getting you the answer or the correction as quickly as possible if our names are already associated with yours, with the insurance company.
Absolutely. And lastly, let's talk about the Medicare Advantage plans. We are, again, paid directly by the insurance company, so we have no dog in the fight as far as what you choose. Again, we want to work the equation, as my wife said, backwards. What are you taking? Who are you seeing? And, we're going to let that be our guide as to what is the best plan. And my policy is to always give people at least two options. So, and that's based, again, on the doctors, the medications, and the facilities, and or the goals you might have. Like, for instance, I have an example here. Let's say Paul is 70 and he's on an Aetna plan, and he comes to see us and he wants to switch plans because he needs more dental. Well, we're going to show Paul the United plan that has the most dental, which in this case is $4,000. And then we're going to show him an Anthem plan that has about $3,000 in dental. And then we're going to compare the doctors and the other medications. And we're going to put this all in front of Paul. We're going to help him if he has any questions about anything we're explaining. And we're going to let the best plan that he wants to choose win.
Right, and then we help with the enrollment and all the pieces thereafter. So
absolutely, it's not just about getting you enrolled in a plan and that hopefully that you like and that you love, but through the year, if something comes up, I'm just thinking of one example through the last year. There was a gentleman that couldn't recoup his green fees.
Yes, so that was an ongoing battle from last year that I don't even know if it's been completely wrapped up yet. And I think many of us have experienced this with not just insurance companies, but other places. It feels as though they are trying to break your will. I know I'm entitled to something. I would like it, and now you have to jump through about 5 million hoops just to get what you were looking for. We're here to jump through those hoops for you or with you, or make sure that our will cannot be broken. We're here to help. I like to joke, if we've got to sit on the phone, we're hands-free. We can go about our work and just put them on speaker and wait for someone to pick up.
And you don't always need an advocate because, it's a catastrophic issue. It could be that you're getting the runaround on something as simple as ID cards and maybe the provider booklet. We had a situation like that a couple months ago, and I was able to resolve it. And I told the enrollee, look, if I have to bring the booklet to your house and hand deliver it, it will get done. So again, it's not just about getting you onboarded onto Medicare. It's not just getting you enrolled in the plan. It's hopefully a relationship that will last for a long time, and you'll always feel that you have an advocate. God forbid you get a letter or you need an explanation, or you just want to say, I've been in the same plan now for a couple of years. I think it's time that I come in and put eyes on.
Maybe it's time for a change.
Exactly.
That's right. So thank you, Rob. That was excellent. I always like to take a little bit of time and chat about our compensation because I do think that's important, and sometimes it does play a factor for people in who they determine that they're going to work with. So.
No, if we did, if anyone that does situations like that where we're trying to, push you into a plan that may not be good for you, you're just creating more work because as that person goes to use the plan, they're going to run into problems. They're going to come back and say, hey, what did you sell me?
That's right. I completely agree. I like to say we hate all the insurance companies equally, so as long as we can find you one that you can live with, then we're happy. Hopefully you're happy, and you don't need to use it very often. That's our goal.
Well, and Medicare, helping folks enroll in Medicare and making sure that they're in the right plans is the daily thing with our office.
Yes, it is.
It's not just during open enrollment. And fortunately, because of the great support that we receive from you, our listeners,
we have dedicated staff now that will be here to help at any point during the year.
Literally thousands of our listeners are our clients, which are great.
Which is very cool. I think, why don't we take our first break of this hour, and when we get back, we have something on our minds that we'd like to share.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement right after these brief messages.
This is the Big 550 KTRS St. Louis, Alton, Valley Park, St. Charles, and the world.
Streaming live at KTRS.com.
Again, another change of season just from yesterday. Imagine what it's doing to the roof. Allen Roofing does. They've dealt with everybody's issues. They could take care of you as well. And as things change, make sure you're good to go for the next season that St. Louis has waiting for us. They'll also come out, give you an estimate, let you know what's going on. Maybe you don't have a problem. If that's the case, they'll let you know that too. Your siding, your gutters, your tuck pointing as well. The name to know. Allen Roofing, online at aroofing.net.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
It's the HW Kia Comedy Club. A lot of people are suffering from gas pains right now. No, not that gas. The kind you get when you pull up to the pump. You look at the price and your wallet says, enough already. I mean, the last time I filled up my car, the pump asked if I wanted to finance it. But the cure for gas pains? HW Kia. You can drive a new 2026 Kia Sportage Hybrid, 43 miles per gallon combined, plus get 0% financing for 48 months and make no payments for 6 months. Credit giving you cramps? Nobody works harder to help get you approved than HW Kia. HW Kia, the cure for gas pains and the best Kia buying experience in the Loop. Manchester Road in the heart of West County, HWKia.com. And remember, Big D wants to see ya in a Kia. Kia finance to well-qualified buyers. 2083 for 1,000 finance plus tax, title, license, and admin fee. It's 434.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, welcome back. We're about almost halfway through hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. So I feel like there's one area of Joe and Sally's that we don't address often enough.
Joe and Sally, the business owner.
Joe and Sally, the business owners. You know, I started my career as a life insurance agent working specifically with business owners. And, you know, my focus for them was, what if somebody passes away early? How do we pass this business on to either the people we love, et cetera? How do we keep this entity going? What if somebody becomes disabled? And really never dealt with much of the issue of what happens when someone retires. But
well, I mean, I think I'm sure many small business owners already live this every day, but this is unique, especially to families and family finances. It's different. It's always terrible when the breadwinner passes away, but if there's nothing there for the family, especially if the entire income was based off of a family business, that can create a lot of issues.
Yeah, and really when a business owner gets to a point, and being a baby boomer, now that I've actually grown up to the point where most of the business owners that I work with are
trying to get retired.
Right. They're my age.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I understand where they are, what the path they've been on. This is truly a transition phase.
Mm-hmm.
Really not much different from retirement. And I know that with most of the folks that we deal with, their business
mm-hmm.
is the largest and the most valuable asset that they have, more than their homes, more than their retirement accounts, usually more than all of that combined.
Because that's what they've put all of their energy, efforts, and money into.
Well, and also their life's work.
Right.
You know, this is, these entities have their own personalities. And frankly, the desire to have them continue past into the future either with children or other insiders or outsiders running their business, can be very important because it's their baby.
And I know the sample size is a little different, but you mentioned in the first hour of the show that you've seen many family farms are not transitioning to the next generation. Are you finding that many small businesses are going the same direction and that they are not being transitioned to the next generation, or are you seeing something different?
Well, look, there's only three ways. What I'd like to do is we're going to take this in a few different parts. Okay, we're going to probably do it over 3 different times, but there's only 3 ways the business gets transferred: either to family members, internal folks, to employees, which frankly is typically you're internally funding it because they don't have any money, they work for you, or. Well, it's true.
Well, right.
They're employees. They don't have money. They work for you.
And also, they've been putting money into their retirement accounts, not into saving to buy the business.
Or outsiders. And outsiders can be either someone who, frankly, is wanting to buy a business.
Or it could be like
or it could be a
private equities.
Or a competitor.
A competitor. Or it could be a competitor that's expanding their business, etc. So what I'd like to do today is to really focus a little bit on family business transfer.
And is this a transfer to family? So
yes,
family business to family.
Right.
Okay.
So let's talk about a little bit about one particular Joe and Sally that I visited with recently. And, having done this for over 45 years, I can tell you that every single business transfer has 2 parts. There's always a capital part, which is a purchase of an asset, and there's also always an employment agreement associated with that. The owner's staying on for a certain period of time. What they're doing is they're getting paid, and then they're leaving. The tax-deductible part
is the second part, right?
Yes, and the non-deductible part, which is typically an asset purchase, because nobody buys stock these days, generally, unless it's your family. So let's talk about Joe and Sally. We're going to talk about the first one. We'll call it the family transfer. They owned a small construction company in Chesterfield. Their 2 children, Tom and Julie, are actively employed with the company. Tom is the outside guy. He's the construction manager. And Julie's taking care of ordering and accounting. So they've got the outside guy and the inside guy.
Well, this is great. They have both component parts.
And what also is really important here, and I would just say that from my experience, I can tell you that if you have more than one child, having them doing different things, not doing the same thing on top of each other, is optimal because they're all basically becoming experts in their own area and not competing in the same area. That's really important. Mom and Dad would like to retire at the end of the year. And fortunately, their children have been with them long enough that they're confident that the business will continue when they're not there.
So important.
Well, that's the key. That's a key thing.
Also, because is this part of Mom and Dad's ongoing income need?
Well, there you go. If you don't trust the kids to run the business, guess what? Especially if the income component might not be there, and frankly, the capital component could be significantly impaired.
Right.
Because the assets don't get more valuable unless they're real estate. There's a couple of issues, which is not uncommon. First of all, most of the company's assets are invested in equipment, vehicles, and inventory, not cash. They're not a financial company. And you can imagine with a construction company, it's going to be like that, right?
Certainly. And I mean, so is this setup different because most businesses aren't like banks or financial institutions. Is this different, though, if the ratio is different? With construction, it's obviously very heavy on equipment side of things, but you could have, what if it was a staffing company? It's still not cash heavy, but it's employee heavy, maybe.
Well, the difference, honey, is, let's call it, the capital side would be smaller, whereas the income side would have to be larger because, like with a physician's practice or anybody that doesn't have equipment, etc., there's no asset purchase side of it.
Gotcha.
It's just more what they would call that
the cash flow,
the goodwill component,
right?
Okay, of the business. And we also know that Joe and Sally have identified that they do have a cash income need of $6,000 per month to continue their lifestyle.
Does that match up with how much they've been bringing in, Joe and Sally, from the business?
A significant portion of that is.
Okay.
And also, they don't want their kids, they don't want to send their kids to the bank.
Who does?
to borrow a ton of money to buy them out, to purchase the stock, purchase the assets.
So they don't want to saddle the kids with a loan.
Right. Well, it could be expensive proposition for the kids, but at the same time, it could impair the companies, in the future, because as we know, the construction industry especially is up and down.
Right. So it could really hamper their ability to be nimble because they've got this loan to pay, plus mom and dad.
Yes, that's right. So let's talk about what some of those are.
Absolutely. Their first option, Joe and Sally enter into an employment agreement with the company for past services rendered and future consulting services for $90,000 per year, which should provide them with that $6,000 a month goal that they were looking for, that $72,000 a year after taxes. The company would find this manageable as they are saving Joe and Sally's current salary. This would be a fully tax-deductible strategy and greatly benefit the kids.
And they're still on the payroll, so that means, we didn't talk about how old Joe and Sally are, but if they're under 65, the company can still cover their health insurance for a couple of years. They can keep contributing to Social Security if that was the case. Like, there's a lot of things that
retirement plan contributions as well.
Could still make retirement plan whatever the case is in a particular situation. It sounds like having the employment agreement, especially if it's a family purchase, makes things very flexible for everyone.
Well, again, and the reason that they want to have an employment agreement also is that because of taxation with the IRS. If they didn't have an employment agreement, those distributions would be considered dividends, which would be non-deductible by the company. So you want to have an employment agreement in place. And typically it'll specifically say this is for X number of years, this is the amount. It could have an escalator, et cetera. It could have a death benefit associated with it.
Well, also and just down the line, these employment agreements can be flexible, right? Like, let's say it was for 5 years, but in this case, Tom and Julie really would like Joe and Sally to stay on for 2 more years after that. They got a huge contract, and they want the extra help and expertise. They could always extend things, so it's not permanently set in stone when you sign it.
Not completely locked in and completely rigid.
Well, it's only locked in if the kids, who are now the owners of the company, think it's locked in.
Oh, got it.
Right. So it's certainly something that could be continued.
Renegotiated.
Sure. Exactly.
Okay.
And that's a good thing. But for the business interest part of it,
mm-hmm.
there are several different ways that they could transfer this. The first one is that with the stock that they have in the company, they could make a gift
mm-hmm.
of this stock to their children, either immediately, one time, or over a period of years, taking advantage of their $15 million lifetime gift tax exemption. Well, Joe and Sally each have $15 million. As of today, it will be inflation adjusted. So they could gift all the stock to the kids.
At one time.
One time. There's no taxation on the gift.
On either side.
To the recipient, and there's no deductibility by the donor. It will cost them a little bit of money only because they have to pay their accountant to file the gift tax return.
It's like $250. One of our other clients did it with their accountant is what they charged. But anyway.
I got to use their accountant because ours was a lot more.
Well, I have one additional quick question.
Sure, babe.
Which is because Joe and Sally are gifting their shares of the company to Tom and Julie, so 2 children, two parents are gifting to 2 children. They could potentially, depending upon if they didn't want to do it all in 1 year, could they avoid the gift? Could they even avoid eating into their credit by doing it staying under the gift tax limit of the $19,000 per person?
Right. So in theory, they could do $38,000 per year
per child.
So that would be $76,000. Now, their particular company happens to be worth several $1 million.
So it would take a pretty long time.
Well, it would. Or basically, they could gift as long as they were doing it. Then they could do a gift tax return later. Or what happens is they could say at death.
Got you.
That's part of their inheritance.
All of these things need to be written down, drafted by an attorney.
Absolutely. And again, we're talking about really working with a team.
Right.
Your attorney, your CPA,
and an advisor,
and your advisor. They could also enter into a buy-sell agreement with the company. We would call that a redemption, to where the company actually has the first right to purchase the stock either at the first or the second person's death, or the kids could buy, and the kids could then buy the remainder.
So explain that one a little bit more.
So what we're looking at here is that there are special provisions in the code that deal with the ability for business owners to sell their stock back to their company.
So Joe and Sally currently own, this is ABC Construction. So
Right.
they currently own 100% of the shares of ABC Construction.
Right.
The buy-sell agreement allows them, or it would have the company have the first right of refusal to purchase the shares back from Joe and Sally at either the first or the second person's passing.
Exactly, and again, typically then you would give the children the remainder. Now this is making an assumption that they just want to hold the stock until death, which is fine. They may want to keep ultimate control, if you want to think of it that way, dead hand control, even though the kids are running the place. And we know that the value of that stock will step up to fair market value
at the date of
death, and so most of these times these agreements are typically funded, or they can be funded if it's possible, through life insurance. And what happens then is that at death, the company receives the proceeds, income tax free. They purchase the stock, and the estate basically receives that money at that particular point in time.
Okay, so in that example, there's a life insurance policy where when Joe and Sally pass away, the life insurance pays the company. The company purchases the stock from the estate.
And the estate then has cash.
And now the estate has the cash from the life insurance.
So
interesting.
So why would this be important to do? Well, what we didn't tell you was that Joe and Sally have a third child. Sammy.
That's not in the business.
It's not in the business. And at this point, will never be associated with the business. And so what they would like to do is to pass on the business to their children, but at the same time, provide a reasonably equivalent estate amount to the third child.
So trying to make everything equal.
Because he's not involved with the business, that doesn't mean that he shouldn't get his third of the business.
Right. So
reasonable.
In this particular case, what happens is that with a corporate redemption.
So when the estate purchases, when the state sells the stock back to the company, and the company through that life insurance policy is paying out the estate, that is where Sammy's inheritance comes from.
Exactly, and we know that it's a tax-free transfer between the company and the estate. We also know that gift to death is a tax-free transfer from the estate to Sammy.
Who is paying for the life insurance?
Generally, the company's paying for that.
So theoretically, it's the two kids that are in the business, Tom and Julie, are using proceeds from the business every year to pay the life insurance.
Right, and that's because the company's the owner and the beneficiary of the contract, it's a non-deductible purchase. Now,
business expense.
Now there's another way they could do it. They also could do what we call we could have the two kids own the life insurance on mom and dad.
Would that be like it would
almost be like a cross purchase. So what happens is they would have an agreement that would tie the insurance to the sale of the business. And what would happen is that they would then receive the proceeds income tax free at mom and dad's death.
And then they would be able to buy this shares.
They buy the shares from the estate.
And then the estate now has the money
to pay out the other brother who wasn't part of the business.
Right. And those premiums, since they're paid by the individuals, would be non-deductible to them. But what the company would do is they would give the kids a bonus equal to the premium, so it becomes a tax-deductible premium payment for the company.
All gets equaled out.
So what is there were two options there with who owns the life insurance.
Right.
How do you make the decision between what the better option is for your family, or your family and your family's company?
Well, I would say that it really is a decision, I think, based upon let's call it what they see as the longevity of their children in the company.
Okay.
It may be possible that, between the two of them, let's say the son might say, you know what, mom and dad aren't here, I probably wouldn't mind cashing out at the same time, leaving sister to run the company, which is unusual, or it could be the other way. That would lead me to say, okay, instead of having a corporate redemption, maybe we go to the children owning the contract, or we could have a combination of both. Because the other side of this is, which is kind of fun, if Joe and Sally are receiving $72,000 a year, even though it's a deductible expense of the company, let's assume that agreement is for 10 years, approximately $720,000. Let's just say, for fun, that the after-tax cost to the company is $500,000. Well, the kids, Tom and Julie, might decide to purchase a life insurance policy on mom and dad
to pay them back for to
recover the cost of that agreement. And
so
by
that's
the way,
like a golden handcuff, right?
Exactly, and that's what the big companies do. Public corporations do when they're offering these golden parachutes to their executives. They want to recover part of that cost
eventually.
And we know the life insurance premiums are really pretty inexpensive. So using the tools that are available and the law can make a lot of sense in terms of the transfer. But if Joe and Sally do not have sufficient assets to equalize the estate to give Sammy a share, that's really where, if they didn't have let's say the other $500,000, etc.
Right.
That's where the purchase of a contract would be very valuable for them.
So I think this is another great example of there are many fantastic family businesses that have gone for generations that have done nothing like this to pass things on. But not only are there ways for you to maintain your incredible family business over multiple generations, but there are ways for you as either the original or maybe one of the line of succession owners to enjoy your retirement off of the work that you did for this business, and maybe one that creates more longevity for the family business. Or secondly, it just creates the opportunity for you to now have created a standard in your family business so that way it can continue to pass on. This is what Grandma and Grandpa did when they sold us the business. This is how we're going to do it.
The blueprint.
Right.
Well, and what's also interesting is that, in many of these situations, especially, let's say, in the construction business, the margins are thin. Okay, they're very thin, and it seems like we're always borrowing from Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
Okay. So cash flow is really at a premium. So having the ability to create capital at exactly the time that it's needed for the exact amount that you need is great.
And think about all the stress that you've taken off of your children to maintain the business because they didn't have to go to get a loan, and now they have that added expense, potentially still needing to pay you an income, or, you've alleviated that requirement, that additional need, and you've still been able to maintain everything, which is amazing.
So let's throw a wrinkle into this if we can. Let's say, and, the initial assumption here, we didn't talk about it, was that Joe and Sally didn't own any life insurance. What if they already did? Do they really need the death benefit now to help create an income stream for them at one of their deaths? The answer is no. They already have the kids, as I like to call Erin. Erin's my pension.
Thank you.
Okay, Erin and Rob. So they have the cash register that's already created for them. They trust that the income is going to come. Couldn't they then change the beneficiary?
So that would be
to the children as a way to say, okay, now we're giving you the money.
So you already created the situation where it's like that was the second example where the owner and the beneficiary are not the company; they're the kids.
Exactly.
But that was it didn't cost anyone anything to do this, or that just means if it wasn't quite enough, you can build on top of what you already have.
Sure. Or let's just as an example, let's assume that it was determined that a redemption, which is what we talked about initially, which was the company purchasing the stock, was more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen this before, where a client will have a large life insurance policy on their own. That has a cash value associated with. They basically sell it back to the company. Their estate has a lien on the contract based upon the cash value that was in that contract. And what happens is, at death, their estate recovers what they had what their cash value was. The proceeds go to the company, then they go to the estate, et cetera, to do that. And that doesn't violate any rules in terms of the transfer for value rules.
Doesn't that also, if a company owns a life insurance policy, isn't the cash value part of their assets?
Yes.
So that could make
shows up on their balance sheet.
So that could make it easier if they were in need of a loan down the road, not for a purchase of the business, but they needed a loan because they were expanding the business or something like that. It can help that way too, right?
I would tell you that. It's funny. I remember when I was in my early 20s, just beginning in business, and we were taking a trip to Florida.
Ooh.
Still go to Florida with
you didn't have a house then, though.
With your grandma and grandpa.
Okay.
And we're walking through the airport, and you folks can imagine this. They have these carts now. They're actually kiosks, right? But there were carts. There was a company called the Del Mar Candy Company, and they had these carts that they sold candy, etc. And your grandpa said, I helped this man. He created a life insurance policy, which was owned by the company. It was large, accumulated cash value, and he used that with the bank, used that contract with the bank.
To buy the carts?
To expand his business into the carts.
Huh.
Which is kind of neat. So these contracts have a lot of use, not only in the business situation, the continuation, but also because these cash values of the contracts are, in this case, assets of the company. So they can be very valuable for collateral, et cetera, purposes. But it's kind of neat to see the real world
application
of these happening before people are ultimately gone. And fortunately, look, my career's been almost 50 years, and it was funny for like the first 35 or at least years of my career, nobody died.
Right, so you didn't actually get to see.
I'm like the best I'm like the lucky life insurance agent. It's like, buy for me because you're not going to die, right?
Right.
And then obviously, as I got older, my clients generally were anywhere from 20 to 30 years older than I was.
Sure.
So what happened is I got into my 40s and 50s, and we started seeing folks that passed away. But what was really fun was watching this process really happen. Seeing the estate be purchased, selling the stock to the company, seeing brothers or sisters buy, exchanging money, et cetera, and seeing the transfer of these companies staying intact and continuing on generations. And
also a lot of these almost every single one of these options that you've presented, I know that business owners can become like family, but this could be transitions of like if Joe and Sally weren't married, they were just best friends from high school, and they're two kids that aren't their each children, their own respective children. We're selling to we're selling to different. They're still in the family, but different families. Like these cross-selling agreements still work. In fact, that's probably more prevalent where they're used.
No question. And, these also can be used generationally, which is, I've seen some agreements where, especially between, family members where brothers and sisters have bought out their parents. And what happens is one set of, usually at least somebody in the family, one of their kids is wanting to continue the business, but there are that are old enough, but there are other ones that their grandkids are really young. And having the ability to say, okay, fine, you have the proceeds, but you also have the right later that if one of these kids wants to buy into the company, that they certainly can do that. And that's really what we call that one is a wait and see buy sell. So lots of variations here. We're going to talk a little bit more about these and how important these transitions can be done, and the work that we're doing with business owners, because it's important work.
Yeah, it's a little complex for the radio, but I think that we get a nice opportunity to showcase the idea behind it.
I mean, everybody's math is the same.
Right. Two pieces of a sale.
Exactly, which is kind of fun. So again, I guess it's probably time for us to take
break number 2
this hour. So don't touch the dial. We'll be right back.
Spring is here, and that means you're going to be spending more time outside and enjoying the outdoors. But your deck, you've been thinking about doing something with that deck for years. Don't wait any longer. Go see my friends over there at Outdoor Living, Big Bend and I-44 in Kirkwood. It's right there. It's been there a long time. At Outdoor Living, the showroom has a great style, great designs. You can get all sorts of options. They'll come out to your house. They'll do a site visit, and when you're ready, they'll build you a deck with metal framing, composite decking, and they will put a 50-year warranty on that deck. That's right. You don't have to worry about staining. You don't have to worry about warping or anything else. All you have to worry about is how much fun you're going to have. They've also got pergolas and fences and patios furniture. Yeah, they got patio furniture at Outdoor Living. Check out the showroom, Big Bend and I-44 in Kirkwood. It looks like the old Denny's. You're in the right place. Or online, OutdoorLivingInc.com for all of your patio needs and a 50-year warranty on that new deck. OutdoorLivingInc.com.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
A single flood can cost you nearly $60,000. In the St. Louis region, if it rains where you live, it can flood where you live. MSD Project Clear wants you to know your zone. Knowing your flood zone means you can act early, protect your property, and avoid devastating losses. Don't wait until it's too late. Only flood insurance covers flood damage. Visit knowyourzone.org now.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Welcome back to the show. We've got about 10 minutes left to answer your calls and your texts at 314-931-5877 or 84126. I hope you enjoyed that business owner side. We're going to do that probably once every 4 to 6 weeks.
I think it's fun, especially one in the sense that, I know we're probably many business owner listeners, but it's also kind of cool to hear how people that are not at the level of golden parachutes like Mass Mutual and these companies that you hear about, executives leaving with millions of dollars in retirement could still do something similar at their level with their numbers.
Well, again, at the end of the day, other than the ego side, the real value of business is the money that you get from it.
Right.
It's creating your wealth. And so, how do we capture that in an effective way over a long period of time? Because at the end of the day, especially when you're looking at internal purchases, you want the cash flow.
Right.
Period, and they don't have the money.
Especially if you're dependent on the cash flow as part of your retirement or for a portion of your retirement.
Very rarely ever seen somebody get a check for their company. Here it is. Here's the check. It's all done. It's always a payment over a period of time.
Well, also you don't, for most people, you wouldn't want it in one check, right? Because one check is usually one tax year.
No.
No.
Well, you're assuming it's all taxable, but at the end of the day,
there is some return of.
Right. The seller wants the least amount of income taxes.
Right.
And the buyer wants the most tax deductibility they can get.
Right. But so those two.
That's why the two there's a push pull between them, and that's why. If you don't have a lot of asset value, what we're really they call it goodwill.
It's like the name of your business, your client list, so to speak.
Well, the intrinsic value of the company, other than building equipment, they call that goodwill.
Got you.
All good.
All right.
Well, we've got some text messages that have come in, and our next texter writes, as an independent contractor, my income dropped in 2025, which will lower my IRMAA individual amount from Medicare. Can I have that reviewed for this year's payments, or do I have to wait until 2027?
So you always want to think about the income-related Medicare adjustment as of this year. So in 25, your income was less. Do you believe in this year, in 26, will your income be less again? If yes, then please do submit the IRMAA adjustment, submit the appeal to have your income-related Medicare adjustment adjusted. Otherwise, it's going to naturally adjust for you because they're not looking, this year they are looking at 2 years ago, but if this year you're going to earn less, that is what the government says is a reason to have an exception to not pay the elevated price.
I would think you'd have to give them a why reason, right?
Well, right, and so you do have that on the form to fill out, so it would be a change of employment is how I would categorize that. You were employed by less people doing contracting work, so therefore your income is going to be less. They'll probably ask for some documentation you'll be able to provide. So that would be my suggestion, is if you were confident that this year will be under the IRMAA, like you're going to earn less than you did in the year that caused the income-related Medicare adjustment, so we're looking back 2 years. If your income is going to be less than that year, file the exception.
All good?
Yep.
All right, and our next texter writes, I lost my husband in November of 2025. Should I have taxes taken out of my husband's RMD for 2026? I will be single filing for my 2026 taxes this year.
So you do want to have taxes withheld from your distribution, but so if you left the IRA in your husband's name and you want the full amount of the required minimum distribution, then take it and definitely pay the taxes because you're going to owe them. You might even consult with your tax advisor. You might want to withhold more because you're going to probably be in a higher bracket now that you're a single versus a double versus a joint filer. But if you aren't in need of the full required minimum distribution, you might want to sit down with your financial advisor and import some or all of that IRA into yours so you can reduce that requirement.
So let me think through this.
Her husband passed away last November.
And they didn't transfer the asset until this year, or they're thinking about this year.
They haven't done. I'm assuming they haven't.
So that means that she would, no matter when she transferred it, she would still be subject
to the RMD.
To the RMD for this year.
I don't know. You're probably right because it was still in existence on December 31st.
Yeah, so I would first of all, I would definitely
take the RMD.
Take the RMD.
Pay the
check
taxes.
with your tax advisor to see if they agree.
Right.
Because they're the opinion you need to depend on. But I would think that they'd have to take the RMD, and then you really want to make a decision whether for 27 you want to combine it with yours.
Or do you want to leave? You don't have to combine all of it. Maybe you want to leave. Maybe our texture is 58, and we need some of that money, but we don't need all of it. Like, you have some options here. So you might want to consult with a few professionals, not just your tax advisor, but your financial professional, see what the best choice is to move forward into next year for you.
Yeah, we touched a lot about this in the first hour about, if you do inherit an IRA, there are some rule changes depending on if you're a spouse or a non-spouse, so it never hurts to go and get that second opinion before you make any changes.
Great point.
And our next texter writes, is it better to withdraw monies from your portfolio showing gains rather than waiting for the markets to go down for a period of time? For example, withdrawal of monies for a new car.
Let's live off those gains, right? I would say if you are in need of cash from your portfolio
within a 12-month period.
Within a 12-month period, we would always recommend not only are you attempting to take gains, of course, but that you have moved that cash out of risk, so out of equities into maybe a money market account, something that is not going to be subject to market fluctuation. Because what if you find the car that you like and it wasn't a day like Friday in the market, it was more like a day like several Fridays ago where we saw the 1,000+ point drop? You don't want your financial decisions to be 100% tied to what the market is doing on a day-to-day basis. You want to be able to make independent decisions and then plan for them. And part of that planning is taking some risk off the table. But living off the gains is good.
Yes, and in the rebalancing your portfolio, which you should consider doing at least once a year. If not, we do it at least 2 times a year for our clients. We're creating cash, and when you think about it, even if let's say it's a $40,000 car, if your portfolio is $800,000, that's like 5%.
Right.
So, is that going to really move the needle that much in your risk tolerance to go to? And putting that in a money market where you can earn hopefully 2-3% interest,
right,
et cetera, while you're waiting to get that car? The answer is no.
And also, if
you don't want to stay fully invested till the last minute because the day could be the wrong day.
Exactly, and then it could have a bigger impact on your portfolio because you still want the car.
That's right.
And our next texter writes, if the calculation shows that your Social Security will not be taxed, do you still have to file?
I recommend talking to a tax professional on that. I do know there's a threshold for a certain amount of income not requiring a filing. However, you still are able to file, and I do know that there are a lot of benefits that are tied to having filed a tax return. So just because it's not necessary in terms of income taxes, you might consider doing it for other potential benefits down the road that you might need.
And it's interesting. You know what you really could benefit from?
What's that?
Maybe a coaching session with Erin, Rob, or I. It's easy to do. All you need to do is pick up the phone. Give us a call if you like, 314-863-0008. Again, that's 314-863-0008. Or you can go to our website, jblfinancial.com. Click on the Contact Us section. Give us your name, phone number. Be happy to contact you back, or your email address. And our assistant, Kelly, will be very happy to get to you. Thanks so much for tuning into our show. We can't wait to visit with you again next week here on the Big 550, KTRS, Talk Radio, St. Louis.
opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Be listening next week at 9 for more straight talk on retirement with your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus, on the Big 550 KTRS.